Today, we're going to give a quick introduction of ourselves and then dive right into what is GitHub Copilot at a high level. Sounds like there's maybe a lot of experts in the room, so we'll try to get to the fun part quickly, which is the 2 demos of GitHub Copilot to show you a little bit more of the nuance around prompt crafting and how the tool works. Then we'll go into a summary and share some resources to learn more about Copilot if you are interested. And then we'll just cap it off with a Q&A. Let's kick it off.
Hey everyone, I'm Rob. I'm on GitHub Copilot's prompt crafting team. I'm a data analyst at GitHub. Prior to my time at GitHub, I worked up in the Berkeley Hills at Berkeley Lab, if y'all know that, where I was an earth and environmental scientist, taught some stats at USF here in the city, so did my fair share of commuting into the city. And you can catch me biking around the East Bay or North Bay on most weekends. Thanks for having us, y'all.
All right. I already gave an intro, but I'm a growth PM at GitHub and started out coding. I wasn't very good at it. And then, I went into growth and product management, and I'm loving it so far. I'm born and raised in SF. So if you have any questions about hole-in-the-wall restaurants, I am your go-to guy. I'm also building a camper van conversion, which is not as easy as it looks on YouTube. All right, before I jump in, quick show of hands, who here has used GitHub Copilot before? All right, it's pretty good, 50-50. I'm assuming you all know what GitHub is already. Not the food delivery app, but Copilot is an AI pair programmer that helps you speed up a lot of the repetitive code tasks and just code faster, as well as just enjoy the job a little bit more. There are a lot of repetitive code patterns that Copilot helps with. So just to share a few use cases, it helps with code suggestions and autocomplete, either from comments or like inline as you're coding. For auto commenting, for easier documentation, which we all know is sometimes a drag, catching syntax errors early, learning new languages and frameworks, and writing unit tests, sometimes catching some of those edge cases you might have missed. And then as of a few days ago, Copilot Chat is in public beta, so you can ask questions about code in a more conversational format. And that's been a pretty popular and exciting update. For a little intro, what types of things can Copilot do? Like I said, a lot of the repetitive code tasks are what it excels at. So if you're trying to make a software more accessible and do something like, I want to translate these input fields for every language, it really helps you speed through that task without having to Google every language in the world. And with that said, I'll kick it over to Rob for a demo of Copilot that's a little more hands-on.
All right, so first up, I got my GitHub code space open here. I'm just on the README file of a repo. If you want more details on code spaces, it's not what our demo's about, but we can chat after if you haven't yet used our kind of virtual coding environment here. So, gonna build a rocks, paper, scissor game in this code space. Start up got a Python file here, and already Copilot's kind of asking us, you can open up a chat window, start typing something, and I'm just gonna prompt Copilot with a comment in this Python file and just say, let's build a rock, paper, scissor game. First, we got to import the random module, and I provided that info in the comment there. We're going to define a main function, and then apologies that the comments get cut off a little bit, but we're going to set up all the possible choices for this game and store them in an object. Copilot is offering this suggestion, which you see in this light gray font. Okay, here's your choices for rocks, paper, scissor game. Then we're going to create a variable that holds the computer choice, create a variable to hold the user choice, and Copilot there is even offering a little you're going to be able to ask the user to choose rocks, paper, scissor when we see the game run later. And then Copilot is already offering this comment to us that says, hey, do you want this comment? We can accept it and say, sure. let's create a variable to hold the result. And it knows, yeah, we want the result to be empty because, well, we'll see what the result of the game is. I don't necessarily need to hold the winner, but we're going to just offer a comment to Copilot that says, let's check the results of the game. Now we're being offered the suggestion of a multi-line completion, which you can already start to see how, well, it would be a little like repetitive to check this task here, or repetitive to write this task out, and checking the logic also requires a little bit of like back and forth reading through. And so, yep, I just accepted that multi-line completion here, and we're going to want to print the results. We get offered this suggestion. Okay, sure, we'll print out what the computer chose, what we chose, and I'm tabbing to accept these suggestions here. And then, yeah, sure, let's print the result of the game. We're going to call the main function lastly. There. I'll save the script of the game. And then at the bottom of the screen here in super small font in this terminal, apologies, it's offering just that statement that we said right at the very top. What do we want to do? Choose rock, paper, or scissor? Yeah, let's choose rock. And at the bottom, it prints out here, computer chose paper, you chose rock, computer wins. You can run it again. We can offer. We can give another. All right, we tied there. So that's just a little way of how through commenting, you can kind of prompt Copilot to give you the complete game there. Now, what we can do is hop over to this, click on my little chat logo on the left-hand side here and open up Copilot Chat. One thing that we can do is ask Copilot down here, how can I make my rock, paper, scissor game in Python a little more efficient? It's thinking. And then it offers an explanation of how we can do that. I'll scroll up here. It says you can make you got a lot of if-else statements down here. You can make it a little more efficient by creating a dictionary that maps all your choices. One thing I like about the chat, Copilot chat here, is that actually I can delete my whole script. And then there's this nice little button here that, yep, just imports the Copilot chat suggestion. I saved it, and then we can try running our game again. And yep, it reproduces the same result there. And I like doing that. I like hopping back over to chat, seeing how I can make things a little more efficient, what I might have missed. Okay, there's our rocks, paper, scissor demo. I'm going to show you as like a data analyst, data sciencey kind of person. One thing I use Copilot for a ton is data analysis, graphing. And so I've got a Jupyter notebook here with a couple cells that I've already run, and Copilot kind of can take that context into account. And I'll just start up a new cell here. And we're importing the penguins data set from the Seaborn graphing library and say, just with a comment, let's take a look at the data. All right, we got some data on penguins. As a former ecologist, makes me really happy to teach y'all something about penguins that maybe you didn't know. We'll make a little graph of penguin, their beak length and their beak depth. Okay, we got a scatter plot there. And then we can say, hey, this looks like there's some clustering on this graph. Let's color code some of these dots. All right, nice. And then Copilot can kind of take a lot of the guesswork about how exactly Seaborn wants to do all that graphing, all the nuances of the graphing syntax. And now we can hop over to Copilot chat, and we can say in the chat, I'll type in, how can I make this graph a little more legible? Paste in the scatter plot code from Seaborn. And then, yeah, for me, it always takes a lot of time going to different websites to figure out how to like change the axes, like font size and all of that. And so what I can do here is just take this code that Copilot suggests, add it here, and then, yeah, we've got a graph that's a bit more expanded. The axes don't have the names from our data frame, but we've kind of reformatted those, added a title. And then lastly, I'll just show you that I can prompt Copilot with a Copilot chat with a question that says, hey, I'm a senior data scientist. What other kind of stats can I do here? Well, did you think of trying a multivariate analysis? You've got some clustering. Maybe you want to do a principal component analysis or PCA. So it also can just, maybe not get to the coding part of it, but help you generate some ideas of what to do with the data next. And back to Dimitros here.
All right, just going to paraphrase a couple of shout outs about Copilot from some business use cases. We have Chris at Coyote Logistics, who talked about how the developer experience is often forgotten. And this makes Copilot helps developers get more excited about coming to work and innovate. So we have on the one hand, it helps you with just faster velocity. But on the other, it makes the job just more enjoyable and satisfying by automating a lot of the tedious, boring housekeeping work that you probably don't want to do. And we also have another example from Duolingo of them talking about Copilot and code spaces helping them reach their goals faster. So yeah, at the developer side, you have the experience just being more enjoyable. And then on the business side, you can get stuff done more and justify having them cover your license. On the getting started topic, if you want to use Copilot, it's pretty simple. You could just go straight to the Copilot tab in your avatar drop-down menu, install the extension in a couple minutes after signing up for a free trial, and then take it for a test flight and see if you like it. You could also get or request Copilot for Business if you do work at a company that is willing to expense it, and that also allows you to manage data retention and policies and preferences at the organization or enterprise level. And now we have chat, which has been a feature that folks have been pretty excited about. So that's available in VS Code and Visual Studio currently, and it's in public beta. If you have Copilot for individuals, you can, it's actually set up by default. And on the Copilot for Business side, you just got to have an admin grant access. Share a few resources here where we talk about things like the impact of Copilot on developer productivity and satisfaction, and the Copilot Trust Center, which is great if you have any questions around security, data privacy, retention, things like that. And a few other things like how to use Copilot and really make the most out of it, and getting better at prompts, tips, and knowing about all the use cases you can use it for, as well as things like upcoming features and enabling chat. That said, thank you all for coming. We're going to have a little Q&A section, so feel free to ask away. When you're signing up for Copilot for individuals, you could select the preferences. There are a few options there's privacy of your code, and then there's basically code coming in. But you can basically block suggestions matching public code on the code coming in. And that means Copilot's going to scan everything on the way in. And then there's also suggesting, basically you can turn off or opt out of your code snippets that get suggested training the model. So opt out if you do have any questions around that. If you really have more in-depth questions, the Copilot Trust Center is going to answer a lot of your questions around this more professionally. I'm not really paid to answer questions like this, but I just gave you the simple select the preferences and opt out of everything if there is a question. And on the Copilot for Business side, it's pretty much opted out by default.
That's an active the context of Copilot and Copilot, the code completion side and the chat side are both active areas of development. It is an area that I work on, so it's a great, you're asking a kind of perfect question here. Yeah, Copilot does take into account some aspects of what you have going on in your kind of IDE instance. I guess I would definitely encourage you to, one, check out the resource we linked regarding that my colleague John Berryman wrote about how we do prompt crafting, and that can tell you about more details that they all worked on. But I would say yes. While I can't go into super deep detail about how we put the prompt together, once you type in your chat, yes, it takes into account more than just what you're working on there, and also more than what you might have on your script that you're actively working on. So yeah, we're pulling data from other sources as well so that the model has more context. The more when you're actively working on a doc, and then the more kind of tabs you have open on your VS Code instance, it's going to be able to pull from that as well. That's kind of like the general idea. So yes, it can take into account those types of context. And then I will just say, like, you saw me I didn't totally incorporate this into the demo, but what I'll often do is, like, I'll write a comment. And I mean, Copilot will offer you a suggestion. Even if you don't write, you can start writing just whatever code you're coding in, and Copilot's going to try to complete your line or give you a multi-line completion. One thing I'll often do is, like, if Copilot offered a suggestion for a graph or some stats model I want to run, and it's not quite right, I'll hop back up in the comment, add a little more detail, add another line of comments. We can capture all that. So, like, the more specific you get, the better. I mean, try a general comment, see what Copilot comes up with, but don't be afraid to hop back up there, be like, not quite, give me something else. And it'll do that. And then you can also kind of tab through Copilot suggestions as well. So if the first suggestion doesn't land, you want to see what other suggestions the model generated for you, you can cycle through multiple Copilot suggestions as well.
So this is something we're thinking about and actively, like, I don't want to spoil the secret, but we're basically working on giving more context at the organization level and allowing the suggestions to just be more enriched by the organization you're at. I don't have any exact details on, like, the where and how, but it is something that Copilot is going to evolve into doing more of over time.
Yeah, and that is a totally tough problem when your company might use, like, a super specific type of programming. Like I don't know, we have a lot of different use cases where more context or more specific context to a particular company or framework, like you said, is important. Yeah, that's definitely on our radar and, like, a big issue for us. In our kind of prompt craft, in the work that happens behind the prompt crafting scene, we do our best to kind of make sure it's the most relevant stuff gets in the prompt that we send to the model, if that makes sense. So yes, I get what you're saying. Too much context can maybe not be a good thing, especially if it's super, like, irrelevant to the one file you are working on, but we do our best to prioritize stuff in a way that's meaningful to what you are working on. Yeah.
So it'll provide suggestions, but you still got to be a developer and, like, read them and make sure that you're denying them when they don't apply, or, like, modifying them as needed. So I would say at this point, you want to read everything coming in and make sure that you understand what you're coding. And on the other hand, like, it's also blocking suggestions matching public code if you opt in for that. And yeah, at the end of the day, you got to read what you code. Yeah, I'd say in its current state, which I feel like comfortable speaking about, is you can write unit tests. So that's still going to be the process of, like, writing unit tests, but it can help you, like, write those unit tests and think of edge cases a lot faster.